What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video. Today we are doing the Tennessee Titans. Again, apologies for the fact that there's only one game to actually decide in this series. It is just unfortunately what happens when you choose every other division before this one, pretty much. So the Titans, let's look over them really quickly. Guys, we're at 42 subs. That's absolutely insane. I thank you guys so much for that. I remember it was like a month straight with like 0 new subs. We were like stuck at like 31. And then all of a sudden we're at 42, and it's absolutely amazing. I really appreciate it. Glad that you guys are welcoming yourselves to the family, and I hope it just continues to grow. So, without further ado, let's discuss the Tennessee Titans. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill, very interesting. He was mediocre to subpar in Miami for a very long period of time. Really couldn't throw the deep ball very well. Just kind of was that guy who was too good to let go, but not good enough to really like take you anywhere. And when he went to Tennessee as a backup, it's really interesting because I think A, the competition, but B, the environment that he was in, a much more run heavy environment, was very conducive to his growth. And they use him more as a short pass type of guy, and that kind of benefits him. Kind of more of like a first, second read type of player. And I think that is proven very beneficial for the Titans, especially since they went 9-7 and were able to go into the playoffs and make a big playoff push. And I question whether he can do that again. Like, we haven't really seen it that much, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm rooting for him. He just got a 4-year contract. You know, the Titans are a team that I like. They're a really cool team. Earl Campbell is one of my favorite players all time. And so, like, obviously I have a little bit of affinity for the Titans. Okay, so looking at the running backs, you have Dion Lewis, and then the star of the team, Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry is an absolute monster. I mean, if you look at him, he looks like Superman. He is just like a built motherfucker. And that is just somebody you just do not want to meet on the field. He has multiple, I believe, 99-yard runs, and he's more of a home run hitter. Like, he's very consistent with like very short gains, but that's why he can chew up people. But he's very good at being able to break one for 99 yards out of nowhere. So I don't really think that I think he's a good bell cow back, but I honestly don't think that he's really like the best running back in the league just because he lacks that versatility. But as a pure runner, he's one of the best in the NFL just because you always know that you're going to get 2, 3, 4, 5 yards per carry with this guy. He's just very consistent, and then he can blow off a big run just like that. The wide receiver core, really, it has really like 3 people in it right now. That's Corey Davis, former, I believe, number 5 pick in the draft. Then you have Adam Humphries, signed last year. And then the star of them all, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, I thought, was definitely one of the best, if not the best wide receiver out of last year's class. He and DK both fell, which I had no idea why. Like, Jordan Ta'amu was not that good, and they made Jordan Ta'amu look like a star, like a stud. So, those guys, I mean, I cannot believe the fact that the Titans were able to steal him in the second round. And cheers to them because he's turned out to be a stud, like absolute stud. I mean, if you see the pictures of he and DK working out, like AJ Brown's a miniature DK at like 5'10". So really good route runner, good hands, good speed as well. So that entire wide receiver core is pretty solid. Tight end, I think Delanie Walker retired. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So they have Jonnu Smith, who is far from a scrub. He deserves a spot in this NFL as a number 1, like a fringe number 1 guy, more of like a number 2 tight end. But he has that speed, he has the agility, he has those like bright shining moments where like he'll just truck through somebody and make a huge play. But he still has more development to go before he can solidify himself as a starter. The next, let's look at the line next, and I mean, this used to be the biggest bright spot on the entire team, and it still kind of is. It's a question of, can Dennis Kelly like move out to tackle? I believe that's his name. And be able to fill in where Jack Conklin was not. They just drafted Isaiah Wilson, number 29 in the draft, and he was a tackle prospect, but I'm pretty sure they're kicking him into guard, which is where he belongs until he develops enough, because he's way too raw of a prospect. But I like his versatility. That was a great pick, in my opinion. It's somebody who you can fill either spot, and you can put the more experienced guy on the outside to coach up the new kid who's a lot more raw. So, I mean, they have Roger Saffold there. They still have Taylor Lewan. Not really 100% sure who they have at center, but the team, I'm pretty sure it's actually Ben Jones. But the team is, like, the offense is pretty solid. They decreased a little bit in their value when they lost Jack Conklin to the Browns, but still, really solid team. Let's look at the defense. They lost a lot on their defensive line. They still have Jeffrey Simmons, though. They stole him last year, or 2 years ago, and that was pretty insane. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons is a beast, and I mean, he only fell because of his ACL tear. People were saying that he's Chris Jones worthy. But, I mean, apart from that, they really lack a lot of solidified power on that front. They lost Jarrell Casey. I believe they lost Cameron Wake as well. And even if they didn't, the dude's like 38, 39. He's not the type of guy they used to be where he was like Hall of Fame type talent when he was with the Dolphins earlier in his career. Looking at linebackers, this is a bright spot for the team. Harold Landry, Rashaan Evans, like boom, those two guys, amazing. I really wanted Rashaan Evans to fall to the Steelers in that draft. I'm kind of glad he didn't because Steelers the next draft got Devin Bush, but I mean, of course, that was the draft that the Steelers, I believe, got Terrell Edmonds, so it wasn't very good for us either. But still, the Titans' linebacking core is very solid. It's very young, very fast, and then they just have a shit ton of potential. I really like the linebackers on this team. Looking at the cornerbacks, Adoree Jackson's on a contract year. They still, I believe, have Malcolm Butler and Logan Ryan. So don't quote me on that either. But if they do, that's a pretty lethal trio, even though Malcolm Butler's not what he used to be. And Logan Ryan really isn't either. Adoree Jackson's turned out to be he's definitely starter worthy, but mediocre starter. And then looking at the safeties, Kevin Byard's an absolute beast, and I think they have Kenny Vaccaro. So, I mean, this team has pieces everywhere, but at the same time, like, they really weakened this offseason. Big time. Like, their defense is not what it used to be. And, like, their old guys are getting older, and then their young guys are starting to move up and progress, but the problem is that they lost their pass rush, they lost their run stuff, and it's, like, really the linebacker's job and Jeffrey Simmons. Like, it's all on them right now. And I think that is a huge issue for this coming season. And the offensive line, again, not as good. So I don't think that their success is going to be as great. So let's look at week 1. Tennessee goes to Denver. I mean, you're going from muggy Nashville up to the Mile High City. And Denver's a damn good underrated team. So I think that they're going to beat up Tennessee. It's just not really going to be a great start for Tannehill when he gets beaten by a second-year quarterback. But I mean, that's just a really big change of an environment. So this team's going to get gassed out way too much, and then Denver's lethal run attack is just way too much. Next week, Jacksonville goes to Tennessee. Jacksonville is way too weak, and I mean, Jacksonville's best asset is the run game, which Tennessee isn't very good at stuffing at the moment because of the fact they lost all their weapons. But at the same time, man, like, Leonard Fournette is, like, being shopped around. And it's like the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're definitely not in contention right now. Tennessee can run on them, they can pass on them, they can do a lot. Jacksonville in a couple of years could be playoff worthy, but right now it's just no bueno. The next week, Tennessee goes to Minnesota. Minnesota, like I've continued to preach, is a team where their old guys are getting older and their young guys are too raw to be great, but they're still a very solid all-around team. Very similar to Tennessee in that way. But I think their run attack is more lethal, their pass attack far more lethal, and then the defense, especially that run stuffing group, is far superior to Tennessee. Next week, Pitt goes to Tennessee. I mean, this is more of an upset here. I think Tennessee just has the ability to run the ball. And Pittsburgh has a damn good run stuffing group, but I think this is just kind of more of an upset. You're in Tennessee, the muggy air, it's just you're at home in Nashville, and that's going to be a big determining factor versus Pittsburgh, where it's not nearly the environment that Nashville, Tennessee is. Finally, the 1 week that we get to decide here, Buffalo goes into Tennessee. I'm giving this one to Tennessee. Buffalo has an amazing defense. Amazing defense. But the offense is not the best. And I think that the environment in Tennessee, like, this is the thing, guys. I don't think people take into account the environments of home games enough. Like, people are like, oh, well, I mean, it's still a better football team. Like, I think the Bills on paper are better than Tennessee. But you are going from, like, New England territory, like Buffalo, New York, going down to Nashville, Tennessee. There is a big fucking climate difference that you are just completely out of your realm. And, like, when it comes to the third, the fourth quarter, when you're used to being conditioned in a certain type of environment, and then you go to a place that is completely different, it is not going to be very favorable for you. And I think that's where Derrick Henry likes to pound the yards out. So I think Buffalo will get gassed out in this game. And Tennessee's secondary, I think Kevin Byard, this is a game where he might get 2 picks and maybe a fumble. Because Josh Allen is just, I think that when push comes to shove and maybe Tennessee is up by a score with not that much time left and Josh Allen needs to throw, is not very good for the fate of Buffalo. Even though Buffalo's a damn solid team, which we'll talk about possibly in the next video. We'll see what happens. Next week, Houston goes to Tennessee. Houston, I mean, their best asset's the run stuffing. And Tennessee, like, when you're forced to throw, it's not going to be too beneficial for you. And I think that Houston, with Deshaun Watson, does actually have an advantage. So, cheers to Houston. Maybe David Johnson will have a resurgence, and then Houston could Houston's fate may change entirely. So next we have a bye week, and then you're going fully rested into Cincinnati. I think Tennessee is far better built for Cincinnati than Cincinnati for Tennessee, and you have that extra week, that extra preparation, extra healthiness, even though completely healthy this entire season. That's what parameters of this series are. And yeah, I think that's just a far better situation. I mean, Cincinnati, they have a solid run game, but really Joe Mixon, as a fantasy owner of Joe Mixon, has been extremely disappointing. Like, he has flashes where he looks like a top 5 running back in the NFL, and then there's a lot of time where he's just very inconsistent, or actually he's very consistently poor. He's very much a home run hitter, but much worse than Derrick Henry because he lacks the consistency of being able to just chunk out yards. So I think that Joe Mixon's kind of been a letdown in that department, and then I think that therefore the run game, the run stuffing is not going to be as crucial for Tennessee. Next week, Chicago goes into Tennessee. Chicago's just a monster team, guys. I keep preaching this. Chicago is Super Bowl worthy with Nick Foles, not with Trubisky, of course. Nick Foles, you just need a guy who doesn't turn the ball over and keeps chunking out the yards, man. That's all you need. That's literally all you need. Like, you have Nick Foles there, and you have an all-star defense. That is all you need, especially against Tennessee. So, yeah, very Super Bowl worthy. We shall see when we get into the playoffs what happens here. So the following week, Indianapolis goes to Tennessee, and Tennessee, I mean, you're going from the Dome in Cornland, Indianapolis, to muggy-ass Tennessee, and the run stuffings for Indy is very good. So this is going to be a tough game. It's going to be a very close game, but the lights are on. I think Tannehill has shown that Tannehill and Derrick Henry have shown that when the lights are on, they can show up. Like the playoffs, they knocked out, I think, the number 1 and number 2 teams, or number 2 and number 3 teams in the AFC. No, they knocked out number 1 and number 2 with who? With Baltimore, and I believe, number 1, number 3. That's right. Number 1, number 3, Baltimore and New England. So, because the Chiefs were 2. That's why they got the extra the bye week, because 2 teams got the bye. But next week, Tennessee goes to Baltimore, and Tennessee wins just because same type of shit, man. You just pound the rock. Even though they got Calais Campbell, you just pound the rock. So the following week, Tennessee goes to Indy. Indy's at home. They're in their dome, very comfortable. You don't have to deal with that environment. Indy's a far better team on paper. I think domes are the best way for the NFL to show which team's best, because teams like Miami can win games just because people can't withstand the Miami Heat. So, yeah, it's just I think that if you wanted a perfectly fair NFL that has like the best teams win, the dome situation is the most like the best environment just because you can't have the environment affecting you. Next week, Cleveland goes to Tennessee. Tennessee wins. Again, environment and then pounding that rock. Even though Cleveland's super powered, I think this is an upset. Tennessee's going to pound that rock, man. The following week, Tennessee goes to Jacksonville. We already talked about this. Jacksonville upsets them just because I think Jacksonville has that ability. They have it in them to win a couple games, but again, they're just not contention worthy. So they have to upset a couple teams in order to get a dub here and there. Regardless, I think Tennessee's far superior to Jacksonville, but you're going to Jacksonville, Florida, and it's just not gonna be too good. And like again, you're going towards the ends of the season. Derrick Henry is going to be getting worn out, not injured, worn out, and I think that Jacksonville might be able to pick up some W's there. Detroit then faces Tennessee in Tennessee. Again, guys, preaching location, location, location. Real estate people say it. I'm going to say it in terms of this. Location, location, location. You're going to Nashville, Tennessee. Air's muggy. It's totally different than Detroit, Michigan. Tennessee's going to kick some ass. The following week, also, the run stuffing is not the best. Even though it's probably their best part of their defense, still not the best. Next week, Tennessee goes to Green Bay. You're in Lambeau. Green Bay is far superior of defense, but not offense. But you have that man, Aaron Rodgers, and that's going to be the difference maker in this game. So the following week, the final week of the season, Tennessee goes to Houston, and Houston's going to pull this one out. Houston's going to want to end on a high note. They're both going to be 7-8. Or wait, no. Houston is going to be 7-8. Then Tennessee's going to be 8-7. And Houston's probably going to want to show Tennessee is like we're still on top. Maybe not on top of the division, but still on top of you. That's what she said. And they're going to want to show out as this final game goes into the books because both teams, they don't really have much to play for. And I think Houston has that ability. Their run stuffing is their best ability. And Deshaun Watson's just a winner. I think that they're going to be able to stop Tennessee from even thinking about trying to challenge for the playoffs, even though we already see our number 7 seed, our final seed, is Denver at 11-5. So it wouldn't even matter anyways, but still, they would still be like number 8 or number 9. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section. Thank you guys so much for hitting that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell because content comes out every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the far side. Peace.